Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Made in New England interview series, where we talk with New England-based companies and the people who lead them. I'm your host, Steve DeVries, and today I am joined by Peyton McManus, president and founder of Instant Technologies in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Peyton, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks very much for having me.
Of course. So, Peyton, maybe you could kick us off, tell us a little bit about you and your background, as well as that of Instant Technologies.
Yeah, sure, thanks. So, Peyton McManus, I was actually originally a product manager for Lotus and IBM sort of way back. And then in 2000, we moved to Portsmouth for a startup up here. And then that was the sort of the 2000 sort of IPO freeze. And then I found myself, kind of looking in 2001, and I decided to start my own software company. And then I started Instant Technologies like 2001. So like what, 23 years ago now.
So tell us a little bit about what Instant Technologies does.
Yeah, so what we do is we use instant messaging and presence to basically connect people inside a company who need help with someone who can help them. So you could think about that as like a global service desk for large organizations where we're using chat and instant messaging, maybe language translation, and soon AI to help solve problems that employees encounter in real time, basically.
So if I'm an employee in a huge company and
Yeah.
maybe I'm sitting in the US, maybe I'm sitting someplace else in the world, uh, and I need help, say, like an IT help desk. I'm
Yep.
using your services in order to connect with somebody.
Right. So what we would typically do is we would have our platform that's sort of integrated. It used to be integrated into, say, Microsoft Lync or Microsoft OCS or same time. Now it typically be either Teams or Microsoft Slack. They would start a chat conversation with our software, and then we would find someone sort of in that organization or in another organization that's providing support for them to communicate with to solve that problem. And then we would sit in the middle of that to track it all and have average speed to answer and a whole bunch of metrics so that the management can understand exactly how many questions are coming in, um, who's fielding those questions, the time it takes, all of that.
And so I would imagine then that the type of service that you provide, or it's type of product that you develop that is then provided to your clients, I have to guess it largely goes unknown as far as Instant Technologies is concerned.
Yeah, that's actually true. So a lot of times we're sort of the layer in between maybe another organization, maybe two organizations. We might be the layer in between those two organizations, one who's sort of looking for help and the other providing the service. But right, a lot of times we're that messaging layer, and we're sort of that transport and also the routing piece that's facilitating all that.
So this is exactly why we do the Made in New England interview series, because there's so many businesses out there that we never hear of that oftentimes provide something critical to our daily lives, whether it's at home or at work, and yet we never know about them, right? There's so many cool little businesses out there that do so many important things. And so that's the mission of Made in New England, is to tell those stories. So um, you are enabling businesses and the people in them to communicate based on whatever those needs happen to be.
That's right. And it's strange. We don't have any customers in New Hampshire, but our customers are throughout the US and throughout Europe, Australia, Asia, South America. So our customers are sort of all over. And then we interact with them on a daily basis normally. And so, yeah, it's very interesting. And we love doing it here in Portsmouth.
So you roll out your products to these global corporations, and you're, for all intents and purposes, a small business based in New Hampshire, and you've been at it for over 20 years. So what's driven your success to this point?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first, I would say in the very, very, very beginning, when you're starting off, I start off by myself essentially, and I have to say, like my wife um, was a huge advocate, and she stuck with us or stuck with me through a lot of hard times because when you start initially, you don't have any customers, we didn't have a product. I had to build that. And that took a little while. So just the sort of fortitude to stick with that and to advocate for that, And it's a little nerve-wracking because you're kind of jumping out of a large company and you're doing this on your own. So I'd say, first and foremost, my wife, and she's been with us from the beginning and a huge help. Um, then obviously the other folks that I work with, so our team, and that, they've typically been with me for a long time. And third, customers. You have to have customers. You have to stick with your customers, be very close with them, listen, and adapt, because everything's changing in this environment. So you really need to pay attention to what they're asking for and what they're looking for. So I'd say those are the three biggies there.
Nice.
But if, ultimately it comes down to customers, because you have to be, bringing in cash, and you have to be adding deals, and you have to be doing things. But it takes really all of these other pieces as well.
So I love asking businesses about their KPIs and their metrics. So in a business such as yours, that's been in existence for as long as it has, what metrics or KPIs do you use in order to make sure that your business is healthy?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I guess we'd sort of split it off between sort of the marketing side and then the customer side. On the marketing side, we're always looking at things like SEO. We're looking at traffic. We're looking at inbound eval counts. We're looking at evals that convert to sales. So you've got a whole set of metrics on the marketing side. And then on the customer side, you're looking at like inbound questions and problems that are coming in, how long those have been open, if those are like, high priority, or if they're low, if we need to really like redirect to resolve something, or if that's something that's going to kind of fold out. So we're a software shop, so we're constantly adding sort of like to-do lists or features that customers want. And then we're also sort of reacting or dealing with inbound issues that are coming in. So we're sort of tracking all of that. You're tracking, if there's feature requests, and then you're also tracking if there are issues that are out there, and what's taking place, and the severity of those. So sales on one side, and then also the software development and customer interaction on the other.
Good stuff. So we're in an age where, I mean, technology is just changing constantly. When you look at your business and you look at your industry, what excites you most about the future of your business?
Yeah, that's good. So, I will say that like 2 years ago, we started looking at AI, and we started taking, let's say, customer questions, and could we sort of try to direct an answer based on an inbound question from an employee? So could we build some AI models that might help with that? And then how would that be done? So we started looking at that. And that's a huge transition. So the transition that's taking place, where you have these models that are sort of learning, I'm not going to say it flips software on its head, but it really changes the whole process, where now it's about content, and it's about training content. It's a global landscape now, which, when I was coming up, it wasn't like a global marketplace. Everything wasn't global. So now you have global, you have AI, you have content, you have a lot of services that are being provided that we can leverage, like translation and cognitive indexing and a whole bunch of things. So there's a lot you can do. And now you also have a lot of ability to do it, where you don't have to host it all yourself. You don't have to stand up your own data center. You can leverage cloud services. You can you can leverage Azure. There's a lot that we can do now that would have been very, very difficult, if not impossible, before.
Wow. You mentioned translation.
Yeah.
So imagine a company that has multiple locations in multiple countries. Your technology, or you're using translation in your product to help people who, are speaking in two different languages.
Yeah, so we're primarily text-based, and so we'll route a conversation, and you might have English speakers, and they're receiving a question from someone in Germany, and they might be speaking German, or they might be in Spain speaking Spanish. And so we'll provide real-time language translation that can essentially detect that inbound language, and then just turn on translation on the fly and then translate. So that could go both ways. And yeah, that's, for us to enable that, it's the services are there, and we can turn it on. And customers use that quite a bit, and it's very helpful. And yes, so.
Very cool. Very cool. So when you think about your business, your industry, I'm sure there's some concerns, and I'm going to ask you about that. But if you could pick one of those concerns and then take maybe a magic wand and sort of wave it and make that problem or that concern go away, what would it be?
It's a good question. I will say that the rate of change is increasing almost exponentially. So you have this change that's taking place. ChatGPT is sort of a signal of that, but you do have a really accelerating rate of change that's sometimes difficult to deal with. So if you want to be in the software industry, I think you have to be very adaptable and you have to really sort of lean into that. So if that's your personality and you like dealing with that, then it's a comfortable place to be. If it's not, then that's going to be difficult because it really is changing all the time. Um, and then a more practical level, I would say security is also like front and center now. When I started, security wasn't the one of the primary drivers. Right now, security is huge. Every customer onboarding, there's a lot of security review that takes place and a lot that's in there. So I'd say moving forward, security is a big one.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So you're a New England-based business. You've been in Portsmouth over 20 years. Uh, Looking back on it, what would you say are pros or cons of being a New England-based business?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'd say, when we moved up here from Atlanta about 24 years ago, and we really fell in love with the whole area. We're in the Seacoast, so we're Portsmouth, Durham. And when I look back on sort of like raising our kids here, so lifestyle is terrific. I was thinking about when my kids were little, they were in fifth grade and they received a coupon book from all the ski mountains so that they could go and ski at all the different areas, like with us, a parent. So just taking our kids around to ski at all the mountains, all of those types of things that you can do in New Hampshire are really terrific. So the quality of life and lifestyle, Seacoast, Durham, Portsmouth, the mountains, the lakes are all just terrific. So, I think you can't beat it. We think it's like the best place in the world.
Nice. So again, you have an interesting vantage point. You have been an entrepreneur for a long time now. You've developed a successful business. What advice would you give to budding business leaders that want to not only start a business, but instead of selling it really quickly, develop it and hold on to it for a long time?
Yeah, that's a good one. First, I would say, I was in a finance class like a long time ago, and the professor got up and the first thing he wrote on the board is cash is king. And I have to say, the reality is that's actually pretty true, and that you have to really stay focused on managing that. And you have to make sure you're bringing in new customers, and you have to make sure you're very frugal and very, let's say, conservative with spend, because at the end of the day, you have to have that to keep everything else moving. So I would say, it's sort of pragmatic, but you really need to think about that. And then you also need to be adaptable and you need to be ready to change. So when I first started, I wrote a product, and I had customers that were using it, but then they said, hey, we don't really want to buy an enterprise license of this product that you just built, but could you build this? And so all of a sudden you kind of pivot a little bit and you say, yeah, I could take a lot of the things I just built and I could build that. So I would say you also need to really adapt to what customers want and move in that direction. So, I kind of say customers vote with their dollar every day, and you really need to listen to that, and you need to try to get as close to that as possible. And sometimes it's hard because you might be going through a period where, you're not getting the traction that you want, or you're kind of having a difficult time. And you just really need to believe in yourself, and you need to kind of keep going, and then just really listen to what customers are asking for and get as close as possible to them. So that I would say those are important things to think about. And it's stressful, no doubt about it, because at the end of the day, it's sort of your thing and you're in charge of that. So you also have to take responsibility. But yeah, I'd say go for it, but be prepared.
So over all those years, where did you go for say a sanity check, right, during those stressful periods?
Well, Lisa, my wife was always a great she's kind of reality there. And then also friends. Sometimes I would have friends who are also running companies, and they're going through it as well. And sometimes we would bounce around ideas and we would share things that we're going through. Um, and yeah, then maybe reading and sort of watching what other people are doing as well, just to kind of get a beat on it. You kind of can never get too much information, so I'd always try to take it in wherever I could. But to that point, I would say that having people that balance out, I might have certain strengths, but other weaknesses, and having people that balance out those things that you are not good at, and that can help you on the things that maybe you don't enjoy or that you're not as good at is really important. So kind of having different people that can provide different skills is also critical. And I would say don't underestimate that.
All fantastic advice. Our guest today has been Peyton McManus of Instant Technologies in Portsmouth. Peyton, it's been a pleasure getting to know you and having you on the show.
Hey, well, thanks for very much. And I think you do a great job, and I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. And thanks
Okay.
everybody for watching and listening. We'll be back with another episode soon. Have a great day.